They couldn't really be coming into this game in different moods, Liverpool and Everton. Tim Sherwood and Julien Laurent are here. And it's been 10 years since Everton have beaten Liverpool.
Yeah.
This is the chance, isn't it? We've said that a few times, but if they're ever going to do it, this is the one.
Well, yes, you have to say that coming off of Liverpool's last result, coming up against an Everton side that started the season magnificently. Let's have it right. They're playing fantastic football. They've got some very good signings. Alan, Decore, obviously James Rodriguez. So you're looking at a team now that looks like they're ready to do what Everton have threatened to do many years. They seem to be getting it now. It seems to be happening. So, but we'll have to see what happens. We'll see what happens in this game. And then we'll see how they can progress, how they can remain consistent, because that's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah, they've had the win against Tottenham, but otherwise it's been maybe teams, although looking at the run of results, but maybe teams that they would be expected to beat, the likes of West Ham and Brighton for Everton. But it's the confidence that they're going to bring into this derby, isn't it?
Yeah, they can't be higher on confidence. You know, the Wrighty's absolutely right. The signings have hit the floor running. They all look fantastic. We've got a poor goalkeeper in Jordan Pickford who's making mistakes, but in spite of him, they're still top of the league. I disagree, though. I think it's not a good time to play Liverpool. I think it's the first time we've seen a capitulation like that. They are the champions. They're the champions for a reason, because they've got a leader in Jurgen Klopp who demands a certain level of performance. And he, obviously, the international break would have hurt him because he hasn't had the time to work with the boys for the last 2 weeks. But he'll make sure they're right. I mean, we saw a player sitting on the bench there at Aston Villa in Jordan Henderson. For sure, he will be back in that starting lineup, because with him in the team, I don't think they would have seen that capitulation. They were void of a leader. We thought Van Dijk was that man, but he seemed like he had no control over the game. It just got away from him. They have to put it down to a blip. But for me, if I'm Everton, I would have wished they would have won that game because they are going to be wounded and they're going to come out fighting. And I think it's a difficult game for Everton.
Tim was talking about the fact that the players aren't really going to have had full training sessions in these 2 weeks because they've been off on international duty. But not all of them have been away. And some of them that have been, like Jordan Henderson, it's probably been good for him to get a bit of game time with England.
Game time, practice, I think, sharpness and match fitness after being injured at the start of the season. You think about Mo Salah and Sadio Mane, for example, for different reasons, but not being involved with the national team. And on the contrary, Richarlison and James Rodriguez had to go to South America to play with Colombia and Brazil. So did Roberto Firmino. So maybe in the end, it sort of levels up. But certainly the last 2 weeks, Carlo Ancelotti would have had maybe more players to work with at training than Jurgen Klopp. And that might play a part in the game on Saturday.
Although when things are going as well as they have been for Everton under Carlo Ancelotti, it looks as though his message has got through to those players, that it's just continuing with what he wants them to do. Because as well as bringing in those signings who've started so well, it seems that the players really know what their roles are within that setup.
Yeah, they do. And you can't take away from, obviously, you have to mention Dominic Calvert-Lewin and the way he has progressed under Carlo Ancelotti. And you have to say, I think I mentioned it before at one stage, that if they did remember when everybody was clamouring, how come we haven't replaced Lukaku? How come we haven't replaced Lukaku? And the thing with that is that it gave them the opportunity to continue to play Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He wasn't scoring the goals as frequently as he's scoring them now, but he was in the team and gaining Premier League experience, so that you think to yourself, if he does start getting the kind of service and getting into the box where he is, you see, I'm always telling you, Kels, where he is, then he's going to start scoring goals. So I think it worked in Everton's favour for Dominic Calvert-Lewin to actually to them to not sign a player after Romelu Lukaku. Now he is already there for them. He's not falling in their lap, but he's come good. You look at someone like Richarlison. When he went there for the 40 million, everyone was saying, "Oh my God, how can they pay that money for him?" Richarlison for me is one of the top young players in the world. When you look at Dominic Calvert-Lewin, like I say, you look where he is. On the shoulder, it's getting goals like that. They all count. He's in there, the one-touch finishes, brilliant header again there. He's somebody now with the service, and the fact that Everton now, Kels, they're not so in such a rush to get forward, George. You see them now, Tim. They're not blasting it forward. They're playing it now, taking their time, looking for openings.
Is that because they can rely on Calvert-Lewin to convert those chances? And
they can rely on the fact that if it goes into him, he'll link it up with James Rodriguez, and they keep the ball in that third of the field where you can start really creating chances and making things happen.
Well, what do you make of his development as a striker, from someone who's kind of been around the squad, has become more of a permanent fixture, but now, as Righty said, his role is more refined, it's more specific, isn't it?
I think for now, Dominic must feel like previously he was a poor relation. And all of a sudden now, the manager like Carlo Ancelotti, who's won 15 major honours in his career, is really stuck with him. And that gives a player like Calvert-Lewin such confidence. You know, you've got a man, they've tried it. You know, Moise Keane's come in there. They've tried to bring strikers in under the nose of this boy. And he must be thinking, well, they're trying to find the solution. I need to be that solution. And in the end, it's good coaching from Ferguson as well. I mean, Duncan Ferguson's helped him out hugely. He was a player in a similar mould to Calvert-Lewin. And Ancelotti, the top manager, you know, who's been around with world-class players, who's just told him a few things. Stay in the width for the goalpost, work on your first time finishing. And when he scored in the first game, a fantastic header away at Tottenham. And then he's continued to score. The confidence is so high. He feels like he will score in every single game. Whereas before he was thinking, well, I'm going to sit next to the manager. You know? And now he knows he's the mainstay striker.
You know what was really evident is that when they played Tottenham last season, and we're talking about, I don't know, maybe from July to when they played them this season, the change in the team is literally just on its head, the way they played. It was quite a dreary game. It weren't a great game, but like the way they played them this time, they were all over Spurs. And this is what we're seeing from Everton now, is a brand of football that they're probably going to move forward with, because they've got them two in the midfield, Decore and Allen. As the base duels.
It would be a midfield battle again anyway, because Liverpool have been so strong in that department. And now with Doucouré, Allen and Andre Gomez probably will play now he's fully fit, against Henderson probably, and Wijnaldum and Fabinho or Keita or Thiago maybe, whoever Jurgen Klopp plays as. But this is where, if Everton can dominate like they did against Spurs or in the other games, I think Liverpool would really struggle to feed the front three, and also they would be exposed defensively.
And it's also, as Righty said, because they can be more patient, or they can be more patient in their build-up, because they've brought in someone like James, whose demise was sort of prematurely reported, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, although if you look at the numbers, apart from last season where really he fell out with Zidane, was not playing, but even at Bayern Munich, it was not too bad. But certainly before that, at Real Madrid, he had some really good numbers in terms of goals and assists. And I think the talent was always there. It was more about putting him in the right environment, good attitude, let's work all together, let's be a big family, we all love you. And I think he needs to be loved a lot. But that left-hand side, the right-hand side with James, the left-hand side with Richarlison, and look at Digne as well, who for me is one of the best left-back in the country, is really, really dangerous for whoever plays against Everton. And I think Mo Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold would have to be very careful against Richarlison and Digne.
Yeah, absolutely.
For James, though, and the role that he plays, he's going to be key to whatever Everton do this season. Yeah. It's about whether or not he can maintain that bounce and that level of energy throughout the rest of the season. Yeah,
because like you say, with the Real Madrid and not the game time he didn't get. Yes, he got some more game time at Bayern Munich. But we're talking about two teams that are not going to, they're not going to make someone like James Rodriguez their main guy, the guy that they're building the team around, like Everton are doing. And what we're seeing is that with a team like Everton, if you can build a team around someone like James Rodriguez, you are going to get a lot of joy. You look at him picking up the ball, and in these areas of the field, look at the quality of this ball. This is what we're talking. This is what Everton have got now. We thought it was going to happen with someone like Gylfi Sigurdsson, you know what I mean? But unfortunately, it didn't happen for him. And then you've got someone who can arrive undetected in the box. You know, not only with the creativity, but then getting in the box and scoring goals as well. Somebody who's not going to be afraid to get on the ball anywhere on the field, and he can create. I
think he's really enjoying the fact that he's a big fish in a small pond, you know, with respect to Everton Football Club. But he's been at two of the world giants, you know, Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. And he's just another player. And I think his best performance we've ever seen, James Rodriguez, is for Colombia when they build a team around him. And I think he's getting that same environment now. He's very difficult to pick up. He plays on that right-hand side. He comes into the pocket where the left-back doesn't really want to come on him. And if Seamus Coleman, who's occupying the left back, and he creates that space for him, he drifts in. He's got a good knack of knowing when to stand still, and he finds the ball. And when he gets the ball and he gets his head up, the strikers move. They know that he's got the ability to be able to find them with the pass. And which was really refreshing when he scores a couple of goals in his last game. He's trapping that back post. When the ball is on the other side, he's not standing out here just trying to look pretty. He's actually getting in the danger area on a 6-yard box. He's had 2 tap-ins. They looked easy. They wasn't easy finishes.
We've talked a lot about how well Everton are doing and how well it's going for them. But we've already seen this season that anything can happen, and there will be difficult patches for them. What's James Rodriguez like in that kind of situation? When you talk about how much he needs to be loved, how he likes being that big fish and that star player, what's he like when it's not going so well?
And we were saying with Whitey a bit and Tim before the show, it's like now he's travelled to Colombia as well to play those 2 qualifiers. He would have to come back. I think physically at some point he might have a dip because he hasn't played much for the last 18 months. And suddenly it's the intensity of the Premier League. He's playing almost every 3 days, pretty much, let's say. Travelling as well with the national team, coming back. There's this big game now. And I wonder if at some point physically he will struggle a little bit. And then Carlo will have to find another way of having that creativity. Yeah. If James is a bit down, maybe you will give Sigurdsson to the team, or Andre Gomez, you push him up a bit more, or something like that. But if he's not on a good day, I think they will struggle a bit to create.
I want to ask you as well about this kind of identity that Everton are building, because they do have a very kind of strong sense of who they are as a club and what they stand for. It was David Moyes who sort of coined the phrase the People's Club for Everton. Seamus Coleman came from Ireland, famously, as the song goes, for £40,000, and then he's come in and he's really sort of taken on that sort of feeling around the club. He's had these meetings where he's shown players videos of Everton teams in the past, what it means to be an Everton player. And I thought you'd probably be the best person to answer this, because having gone to Arsenal, not as an Arsenal fan, but now being so much part of their fabric, how important is that sense of belonging? Well,
it's once you understand what it means to the fans, I suppose you could say the same with once you find out what it means with Liverpool and how the Liverpool fans are. It's no different with Everton, obviously. But the point is with Liverpool, at the moment you can say they were European champions, then they were Premier League champions. So you can attract players from success. Of course, but when you're trying to teach someone why the club's important, why it matters. Well, the thing is that when you look at Everton's history, you know what I mean, unfortunately, they're literally in the shadow of Liverpool. I know they had their 1984 and they played brilliantly, had a great team at that time. But I think that Seamus Coleman, to do that, to make people understand what it's about, it's a masterstroke from his point of view, because you do get a connection, you do feel a connection. You know, it's a connection that someone like Duncan Ferguson now, you know, he's got the tattoo, he's got everything now, what he feels for the club. It's the same with me, like with Arsenal. Arsenal have always been a team that we supported from the estate because of David Rocastle. Yeah. You know, I went through with Palace and everything, but the Palace fans are upset with me because they think that I've jumped onto Arsenal. Yeah. But when David came off our estate and went to play, the whole estate supported Arsenal, and that is the kind of thing you try to show people. And like, if people came back to our estate, we'd explain to them why we support them. And it's the same thing what Seamus Coleman's doing inadvertently. He's showing them what it means to this side of Liverpool and what it means to play for Everton, and why at some stage now you look at him with Mashuri and what he's looking to put in with that manager, you can see something's happening special there. Is it just a PR thing with the fans, if you like, when players talk about the connection with the club? Or is it something that you can get genuine results from? You can get that little bit more out of the players? I think so. And as a manager, you get more time. If you're giving the fans what they want. I played against them in 1987. I made my debut. They won the league that year. Yeah, they won the league. They were the champions. And when I come off that pitch, I was thinking, it was my first game ever. I played for Watford against them at Goodison. And it was the atmosphere. I mean, it was just a blur. I was thinking, surely it's not going to be this difficult every single week. If you wanted to get the ball down, they would get the ball down, they'd pop it around you. If you wanted to have a fight and get more aggressive, they would beat you up. That is what they expect. On the stands there, they expect to get everything. You roll your sleeves up, but we need a bit of flair. We need to get the ball forward. We need to get it early. They've always had a big number 9. It was Graham Sharp when I was playing. They've always had it. Duncan Ferguson. Now they've got one. Andy Gray before him. Bob Latchford. Are we going to mention Gary Lineker? That was it big. Yeah. Get the ball wide, get the cross in there, get in behind. But when it's right to play, mix the game up. And I think they've got the blend there. We talked about their midfield now with the Correa and Allen and Rodriguez. They can play now as well. They not only blood and thunder all of the time and get the ball forward and never have a breather and get caught defensively. I think Carlo has understood that, and I think that's great management by his part.
Any other manager at the back end of last season, the way they performed, probably on the brink of getting sacked. Because he's such a good manager, they give him the time, they give him the money, they give him his own players now, and they're reaping the rewards. Albeit, it's just a start. The bubble will burst this weekend.
But I was that point about the style is an important one, because historically Everton is the school of science. They were known in the early days for playing football the way that we think of football being played beautifully now.
Yeah, and Carlo Ancelotti, on the other hand, has never been an ideologist like Pep Guardiola or even Jurgen Klopp, but certainly he knows how to get the best of his team, well organised. His son Davide is a big part of the coaching staff as well with the players, and I think he had a very clear idea of how he wanted to play. He just needed the players, as we said. Yes. Alan in the holding role, Doucouré to be that box-to-box player, Andre Gomez is a bit more technical, and then they know exactly what to do with their fullbacks, to do with the wide players. Calvert-Lewin knows exactly what to do as well, and I think he starts with that, and then I think he shows them a lot of love, which I think they needed.
Yeah.
And what we've covered a lot over the opening weeks of the season is the fact that their weakest position probably at the moment is goalkeeper, which is something that Liverpool will be looking to exploit, except for the fact, and I know you're saying that the Everton bubble's going to burst this weekend, except for the fact that Alisson is not going to be back for Liverpool. It's going to be Adrian in goal. How much more difficult does that make it for Liverpool?
Oh, that's a bigger blow. I mean, we talked about Jordan Henderson. I mean, let's get it right. The first game of the season, I've never seen him play as well. He won that game against Tottenham single-handedly. I mean, Tottenham had a lot of good chances. Yes, they didn't play well, but they still would have won the game, apart from Pickford. Pickford was outstanding in that game. And I was waiting the whole game thinking, well, there must be a mistake soon, because generally there is, unfortunately, but they never come. So that is where he needs to play. That's the level of what he needs to try and play every single week. It's very difficult for him because he makes mistakes.
So he's a great goalkeeper who occasionally makes mistakes.
Yeah.
Whereas Adrian...
But Adrian, last season when Adrian came in, when Alisson was injured for that shorter period, looks like Alisson's going to be out for another month, 6 weeks still. So he's going to have to get it right. Jurgen... I think they still could have gone into the transfer market. They didn't.
There was talk about Jack Butland, wasn't there?
Yeah, he still go to the Championship until Friday to possibly do that. If he doesn't do it, I think it'll give Adrian a confidence boost. They'll say, no, I'm persevering with you. You made a mistake in that game at Aston Villa. It was the first goal of the game, which is the crucial one, but we crack on. I don't think they can try and make him play like Alisson out from the back. Do what you're comfortable doing. The main priority for me as a goalkeeper is keeping the ball out of the back of the net and be able to catch it.
But if you're coaching them, does that change how you set your defence?
Exactly.
And is that difficult to do when you've not had the players there for 2 weeks?
Kels, they love playing this high line. They were playing it all the time now. He's not out of his goal. He's not comfortable sweeping up there. He's not the quickest out of his line, where Alisson will read the situations and he'll be on top of it. They have to change, they have to adapt. That's what Jurgen gets paid the big bucks for. That's why he's a quality manager. That's why they're the champions. I'm sure he will adapt this weekend.
I find it very difficult for them to do something like that, simply because of the way they're playing. It's regimented in them now. They play out from the back. So I'm more surprised that they haven't trawled a world for a goalkeeper that can... So as if Alisson comes out, and he's had a little bit of injury problems since he's been at Liverpool. So you'd have thought that that's something they would have been doing really vehemently in respect of having to find that backup guy who is going to come in, and at least we're going to still be able to play out from the back.
Yeah.
So I think that for me, that's something from Liverpool's point of view that I was very surprised with. But
Everton got him.
Olsen. But the thing is that you look at the way they're playing this high line Liverpool, and I heard Andy Robertson talk about when Arsenal played, and we know they've got quick players, so we kind of pleased. We caught them offside a couple of times. So it's obvious they're trying to do that. They're not going to change that against Everton, and it's all going to come down to their closing down of the midfield, because if they've got time, Everton's midfield, and they play with that, high line with Richarlison, James Rodriguez on the ball, Gomez, they're going to get punished again.
And as Righty said, Alisson was injured at the beginning of last season. He got injured in the opening game against Norwich. Adrian came in, did all right there, and then went off and won like the Super Cup and the World Club Championship with Liverpool. So it was a nice start to his career, which maybe glossed over the fact that he wasn't and isn't the keeper that Alisson is. Whether there is no disgrace in that.
No.
In being second to Alisson. However, is he good enough to be a number two to Alisson? Because Liverpool they aren't reactionary in the transfer market. If there's a goalkeeper they want, it will be somebody that they've looked at for a while.
Yeah, and let's not forget that when they signed Adrian, he was training back in Spain with the sixth division team. No one wanted it. Yeah. So, it was a weird one, and maybe they thought Alisson is indestructible anyway. He would never get injured, and then obviously a few weeks later he did. Yeah. I think the Atletico Madrid game, psychologically, maybe when Adrian's performance cost them really the qualification, maybe has changed something in Adrian, and he hasn't really been the same since. No. So I think it's a big issue, and I agree with the boys. I would have gone and signed someone else.
I tell you, I think he's very fortunate there's no fans in. He's one of those. Yeah. He's one of those that might be taking advantage of that, because I just feel like right now, especially when you watch the game against Villa, and we've got to remember as well, there was 3 deflected goals in that.
Yeah.
When you watched him in there, for him to be that nervous with no fans in, you think to yourself, he's worried. He's worried about having to play out. He's worried about, there's some of the goals you're thinking, yes, there was deflections, but I think that Alisson definitely saves some of those. He saves the team. You see, there's not much he can do about stuff like that, but he makes the kind of saves. Look at that line. Unbelievable. Yeah. He makes the kind of saves, Alisson, that gets your team going again.
When you're looking at it now, Righty, this guy, does it look like an outfield player in goal to me? I mean, it does to me. It looks like no size, no stature. I mean, I'm doing it with this service, obviously, and the goals were lucky. They got very lucky with this one when Jack just sits him down here, gives him the eyes. Whoops. But he looked like he's got near. It wasn't imposing. It wasn't big and imposing. They talk about bringing in. Look at the numbers there. I mean, that speaks volumes, doesn't it?
He's not far off as opposing saves per game. It's the only one that he's not too far behind Alisson on. But the percentage of shots that he saves, even the way that, like you were talking about that relationship with the defence, his passing accuracy isn't great
it's
on
clean
that.
sheets as well, Kels.
And conceding double. I mean, look, his figures, given that he's only played 12 games, his figures are going to be massively affected by shooting 7 against Aston Villa.
And not only that, I mean, Righty would tell you, as a striker, you need a rhythm, and as a goalkeeper, you certainly do. Yeah. I mean, it's difficult to keep getting thrown in and then brought out again when the main man's ready. I'm surprised, like Jules has said, they never went to the market. I'll be very surprised if they went for Jack Butland, because he's making mistakes playing in the Championship. If they were going to go to the Championship, I would think they would go and get the best goalkeeper in the Championship. They're in that market now. Go and get a Ben Foster, someone who's got that wealth of experience. Go in there, and you, as a back four, you would think, we got him behind us. We know. They won't admit it, but they will be a wee bit nervous. And when Jurgen gets them back, as he's had them in today, and he'll have them in tomorrow, and he worked towards the weekend's game, and he starts tweaking the line a little bit and talking, it's only because of one thing, because he's not sure about Adrian.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that they can't do anything about that as things stand at the moment. So it's about not conceding those chances, and what Liverpool have to do in order to stop Adrian being put in that position as often as he was in the game against Aston Villa. Because you can talk about 3 deflected goals as much as you like, but it was 3 chances.
It was 3 chances, and
3 chances that were deflected as opposed to the 4 other goals.
But at the same time, we've Liverpool's line and how they're playing is not new. We know, but it's got to have something to do with the closing down now, because what Villa showed, a team that were 1 point off of relegation, showed that if you give players like that the time, and then you've got a high line, you've got a willing forward like Ollie Watkins, who was I thought he was very good on the day, even though he was gifted the first goal and stuff. His work rate was brilliant. And then you've got someone like Jack Grealish, who's very comfortable on the ball, going past people. If you cannot get tight enough and your line is that high, you're going to get beat. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do, because something has to change. The aggressiveness in their closing down has got to be more intense, like they were against Arsenal. Yeah. Arsenal. I know it was at Anfield, but it was like I felt like I was suffocating in my house. Yeah. They had so much pressure on. That didn't happen. Yeah.
But Sadio Mane, I think Sadio Mane missing against Villa was the big difference, because he's the one really that implement that.
But Jota
that
as well. Jota, I've seen Jota. I know it's not the same level in respects of the press, what Liverpool do and what Mane does. But Jota's got that about him where
he's got the energy
to do that press.
But I think you need an understanding with Firmino and your midfield and Salah to all go together to really put them under pressure, which I don't think they had without Mane.
If there's no pressure on the ball, the line has to drop. He's right. There was no pressure, normally triggered by Sadio Mane. Hopefully he'll be back for them. He did it at Chelsea, didn't he, when the ball went back to Kepa. He ran past about 3 or 4 of them, closed the ball down and tapped it into the net. He's the trigger. He's the one where he goes, there's the pressing victim. We go now. Everyone else flies in behind us. No one triggered that. And then it's like losing the soap in the bath. They couldn't get it back.
That's quite a retro analogy, that one. With that little tin one in front of an open fire. But when you talk about Sadio Mane and the intensity of that, how much more difficult is that for a forward when you've gone 2 goals down early on and then you're just getting further and further behind?
It's really, when you're up there.
And they're going to keep putting the effort in.
when you're up the other end and you're just seeing it going wrong and you're trying to do your bit, but for some reason, then you've got to realise as well, Villa's confidence now is flowing, because from back to front, Villa's confidence just grew and grew. And when you're up front, like you saw Salah couldn't do any more, scoring goals and doing his stuff. You're just looking back thinking, what the hell's going on? What is going on? We can't seem to get it right today for some reason. And all the time that was happening, they might have tried to get closer. They were exploiting spaces behind Anne Robinson, behind Trent Alexander. They were just doing he really gave Trent Alexander a chasing, Jack Grealish. We were speaking about it earlier on, because the confidence that they and then Liverpool couldn't get it going. And I literally cannot wait to see this weekend to see how he's going to get it all back. How they're going to get it back. Obviously, Mane is going to be a difference, but it's really intriguing. Because
Klopp's talked in detail about that sort of risk-reward balance. And I suppose the idea is that Trent Alexander-Arnold doesn't get put in those positions. So when you see him like that, he's one, it's not his strong point, and two, he's not used to it. Yeah,
and England played international last night. He sits on the bench and doesn't come on. I mean, there's a kick up the backside. I think it's the competition what he needs. Reece James now, the Chelsea boy, looks like he's overtaken him in international. I think Alexander-Arnold, we know how good he is. Him and Robertson on the left-hand side, him on the right-hand side, the assists they make. But it's also about defending. When you see Leeds come first game of the season and they say, you know what, I think everyone looked at this and thought, Bielsa's having a go. And they lost the game, but it was 4-3. They really took it to Liverpool. And I think Villa done exactly the same. Let's not sit back. Let's not wait to get beat. Let's have a go. We've got Ross Barkley in there now. We've got Jack Grealish. We've got Ollie Watkins. We've got players, McGinn. We've got players who can have a go at Liverpool. To give them the confidence to do it, I think that is the benchmark now. For the other teams, you're playing against Liverpool, don't sit back and wait to get beat. You've done that last year and they lifted the trophy. Have a go at them. See what they're made of when you're put under pressure. And I think that's what we're going to see. It's going to be fantastic for us to watch, because there will be teams who will come unstuck. When they get into their rhythm, Liverpool, and I'm sure they will, they are open up teams. But these teams are going to come and have a go, start throwing some punches. You stay on the ropes, you get knocked out.
Thiago's going to be back, as is Jordan Henderson. And obviously, everything in a game of significance comes from the captain in the centre of midfield, as you know. But it's just the organisation from him, isn't it? And that, as you said, that telling players, that you do have to get, in the absence of a crowd who are going to get on your back, say it at 2-0 down, you need a player in there who's going to be doing it.
Stop the bleeding. It's, as they said, like, listen, guys, no matter what the manager's saying over there, I know he's in the spotlight. Well, I'm telling you on the pitch, you tuck in here, we've been more solid, just organised, not all ranting and raving and shouting all the time. We saw Van Dijk, we saw pictures of him going, come on. It wasn't about that. Jordan would get hold of him and he'd tell him, and he'd say, righty, I need you here, and stay there. And I think he's got that leadership quality. He's not only about what Jordan Henderson does, what we can all see about the assists, about the goals, about the tackles. It's about what he gives you in the dressing room and at Melwood every single day of the week.
Having talked about all their problems, mostly for Liverpool, despite some of those players coming back, you still think they've got the beating of Everton?
Yeah, I think Everton have been great, but I think they're the champions. I think they've got the better players, and it was just they've got to put it down to a bad day at the office. Yes, they're going to miss Alisson. He's going to be a huge miss. Mane's going to be back. I think they have too much. I really do.
Jules?
I go for a draw. I know it's actually on the fence. I know, 2-2.
Yeah.
2-2.
I'll go for Everton to win.
Yeah.
And simply because I think that they've got nothing to lose. I think it will be a good yardstick for them. And Liverpool coming off of that loss, and they're going to have to do something. There's going to be nerves going into it for Liverpool, whatever happens. We know how good they are. But it's a good opportunity for Everton to take advantage of the fact that if they are not bang on it, then they've got to punish them. That's what it's going to come down to.
Not only is there a Merseyside derby this weekend, but it's also one of those